Facebook famously determined that if a new member invited 10 friends within 14 days, they were hooked for life. So they focused religiously on driving the user experience to this key metric. If you apply this product-based approach to B2B sales, then you can identify those users that are ready to talk. And this method is known as the Product Qualified Lead, or PQL. So if you sell in a freemium, open source, or trial model, then the PQL method is critical to give your sales team visibility into who is ready to talk. So talk to your data team, or better yet, partner with Whaler's team of data scientists to develop a PQL model tailored specifically for your business. You'll be empowered by knowing exactly when a user is ready to convert. To see specific examples, go to getwhaler.com/Andy. That's GETWHALR.com/Andy. And as a bonus, if you sign up to learn more about Whaler and PQLs, then Whaler will send you their optimized 2-page master services contract that you can leverage for your own business free of charge. It's time to accelerate. Hi, this is Andy. Welcome to another edition of Frontline Friday with my regular and very special guest, Bridget Gleason. Now, before we get to the show, Bridget and I have a favor to ask of you. We'd really appreciate it if you took time right now to leave a review for this show on iTunes. And while you're there, click the button, subscribe to Accelerate. Make sure you get Frontline Friday automatically each week. Also, we need to hear from you. More specifically, we need your sales questions. What can we answer for you? What challenges do you have that we can help you with? So go to accelerate.fm/frontline and enter your question there. Each month, we're going to select one listener's question to be the question of the month. And the winner will receive a $50 Amazon gift card. So remember, go to accelerate.fm/frontline to give us your question and maybe win $50. So Bridget, how are you today?
Andy, how are you today?
I'm happy.
I'm turning it around. How are you today?
I'm happy.
Good. What's making you happy today?
That I'm not at Dreamforce any longer. Yeah.
How was it?
Well, I sort of pride myself. I go up every year, but I never actually go to Dreamforce because there's always all these side events and meetings and so on I have. So meetings were fun. Side events were great. Yeah. Generally good stuff all the way around.
Does it end tomorrow? Gosh, I used to go to Dreamforce every year. Now, being in a slightly different industry, I don't get there as much. It ends tomorrow, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but San Francisco's just packed, as you might expect.
Oh, God, I know.
So I tried
remember that.
So I was just going to go up for a day because I wasn't speaking. I was sort of the keynote interview subject at an event at Yesware's offices in San Francisco. And
Gotta love Yesware.
Gotta love Yesware. And your alma mater. And being interviewed by Matthew Bellows, founder and CEO.
Matthew Bellows, yes.
And so I was just going to go up for the day and back from my San Diego office. And then there's something that came up. So I had going up Monday instead, talking on Tuesday. And so I had to find a hotel room, only a month before Dreamforce. And I thought, I've done this in the past, and there aren't many rooms, but there are some available.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there were a few available. So, the Westin St. Francis on Union Square, which typically is, $250, $300 a night, I think it was $1,200.
Oh!
And
oh, boy.
It sort of went on from there, Everything was close to $1,000.
Just crazy. Oh, crazy.
Yeah. Surge pricing.
Yeah.
So I stayed down near the airport.
And that was probably still expensive.
I used points.
And used points. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, they weren't taking points at the hotels in San Francisco.
Mm.
So I used points. It was easy enough to just take barter or Uber up to the city. But it's just nuts. So, even all the hotels, supposed to have a meeting with a couple of people at the Palace Hotel and walk in, and I don't recall this from years past because often as I'd stay at the Palace Dreamforce had taken over the entire hotel. It seemed like you walk in the door, there's a famous Pied Piper bar with the famous painting over the bar. the Pied Piper, and yeah, that was closed for some Salesforce event or Dreamforce event, and yeah, every conference room, and there literally was no place. At that point, I just wanted to find a place to sit down because I'd been on my feet for a long time. Yeah, I couldn't find a chair. It was just like,
wow.
So yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, quite an event.
Well, I've heard at some of the shows we're going to reInvent, which is Amazon's big show in Las Vegas in November,
right.
and one of the things that they're doing this year, I don't think they've done it years past, is Amazon buys up all of the local restaurants and venues. So they buy them up and book them, and then they sell those back to sponsors and potential sponsors. So just another way for them to make a couple of dollars.
Well, yeah,
so,
I'm sure that Salesforce
does the same.
Makes a ton of money on Dreamforce, because I mean the booth prices are
crazy,
expensive, and if you haven't been to Dreamforce before, which is the annual users conference for Salesforce.com, at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, you go into the exhibit space. I mean, if you're claustrophobic, I wouldn't recommend it at all because it's just crazy packed full of people. I'm not sure how the vendors even talk to anybody that come by the booth because A, it's such a mass of humanity, and B, it's so loud. But they seem to get no shortage of people taking up the booths. But increasingly companies, rent suites. And so I went to several companies up there, suites at hotels or, rooms at hotel that or their local offices in the case of Yesware that they've, opened up for. And Yesware is just sort of like an open house. Come charge your phone and get a drink and get a massage even.
And a massage?
There were people lining up for massages. I
would have.
Yeah. I didn't think about it until I was gone. I'm thinking, I could probably use one. But yeah, they had a line. I think they were booked up for most of the day yesterday.
Wow.
So, but anyway, I'm returned from that in one piece.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And you did a session there, right?
Yeah. So Matthew Bellows interviewed me about sales trends and the impact of some of these trends on sales acceleration. And so it was a fun group, and we had a great discussion. I always enjoy talking with Matthew, and there's events like this all over San Francisco. I mean, at lunchtime or throughout the day, people have a series of running events. So I'm always so surprised to get anybody to show up to any of those because there's so many going on.
So much. Yeah. There's so much going on.
So, but anyway, a couple hundred people signed up for it. So it was cool. Enjoyed it.
That sounds great. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. Gosh. By the time this airs, we're going to be getting pretty close to the end of the year. For people who don't know, we record these. It sometimes depends, but the interval is usually a week to 3 or 4 weeks in advance of the time that they actually get posted. So, any big plans for finishing out the year strong?
Are you talking like what we're doing work, or am I doing anything that's going to help me feel strong so that I can finish out the year strong?
Well, let's start there.
I'm actually going. I'm flying to Boulder this weekend.
Yes.
To go to a book club. I love books. I'm going to a book club.
What do you mean a book club?
What?
What do you mean book club? I mean, this is...
I'm going to book club.
A regular book club with friends that you...
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I couldn't find one in Boston. Is that your question? Is that the subtext of your question?
Yes.
I thought so. I have them in Boston also, but it's a very good friend of mine. And when I was out there last time, I just happened to be there at a time that coincided with her existing book club. So I went. And this time they're reading a book called The Lemon Tree, which talks a lot about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and sort of the history. And given, I guess I'm the closest they know to an expert because I've been to Tel Aviv, which is dangerous.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been 3 times.
I like to act like a know-it-all, but so I'm doing that. I'll be home at Thanksgiving, see my sons and family. And then, we've got reInvent. We've got a big show coming up. And so, yeah, I feel sometimes, Andy, like I know that the race I'm in is a marathon, but I'm sprinting. So it's part of it with a startup is there's always more to do than there's time.
Tell me about it. Yeah. Yeah. I consider my company a startup, even though we've been in business for a long time, but we've always got new things going on. And it's, and also having worked at 8 different actual startup companies. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
Understand. So, I thought we'd talk about something we sort of filled people's ears with news about us. Talk a little bit about sales.
Oh.
Should we?
Okay.
We don't have to.
I don't know. We don't need to. We don't always. Sometimes we spend the first 20 minutes talking about running and then say, oh, wait a minute. This is Frontline Friday. It's supposed to be about sales. Okay, sales, yes.
Well,
specifically.
See, when you said you were going to be making yourself stronger for the end of the year, I thought you were going to reveal that you were, taking on some big physical challenge like a marathon or a half marathon. No?
Oh, you thought I was? No, not yet. I would, but I'm not doing that now.
Okay. All right. So, sales. So here's a question that had popped up, and this is a question Matthew Bellows and I talked about at the event with Yesware at Dreamforce, but then also had a couple others, by sheer coincidence, had a couple other conversations in the last day with a CRO and another with a VP of sales about the sort of same topic, which was, maybe I'd summarize it a little bit differently than we talked about Yesware, which the context of the question Matthew had asked me at Yesware is really about, well, who should choose your sales strategies and your sales tactics? Should it be the reps who are engaged? Should it be the managers, or should it be the execs? And the question I was asked by somebody else was a little bit different, but sort of the same tenor, which was, is there sort of too much command and control in sales these days? And a question was asked sort of another way, which was, we seem to be so good at the science of selling. This was a CRO of a very well-known company. Science of selling, process, scripting our personas and so on. But we really suck at the art of selling. Actually having to engage and connect with prospects. And so they're all sort of related in my mind, because what he was saying is our process and sort of the art of selling is a process. We tell people how to do it, right? As opposed to, do we give them, how much freedom and latitude do we give reps in terms of, again, the tactics they use to engage, or the strategies they use, AAEs, the strategies they use to move the deals forward? Or are we so tightly scripted and process driven by stage exit criteria, blah 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 blah, that we've sort of taken the individuality, the creativity, the art, as the one CRO talked about, we've taken it out of the picture.
Matthew was asking you this question?
Yes.
What was your answer?
My answer was that, my belief is that we are hurting ourselves by constraining the creativity and the individuality of our reps and our account execs. And I see that, often more than I'd like. And I think it shows itself in the results, the sort of industry-wide results that we all sort of hear facts and figures about. And, but on the other hand, we have a sort of a system that works to a certain degree, and everybody's sort of loath to change it. And so I think that, we have this stasis that's occurred, that where things really need to change, but it's like people are afraid to take the first steps to do it. And I think it sort of starts with unleashing the creativity of the people who actually engage with our customers. So I'll give you a metaphor. to think about is again, we see this particularly with inside sales, is right. We've got our personas we sell to, and we've got our script for how we're going to do that, for scripting for individual engagements, as well as we sort of got our process scripted out. And what I find and what I see, and I talked about this yesterday at the Yesware event, and a lot of people comment that, this is what happened. I said, you think about it, right now, frontline managers are sort of like helicopter parents, right? Every time there's a problem, we have an answer for it. And we're not letting people oftentimes really figure out what's the best way to do that. Maybe there's a better approach at a problem resolution or a situational resolution that, to help a customer in a way that doesn't really conform with the way our set process has been laid out. And so, as managers, we drop in and we give people the answers. And I think that it's, and we sort of compound that by saying, hey, here's how the person next to you is doing this. They're so much smarter. It's like telling our kids that, go do what the neighbor's kid does because he's so much smarter and better looking than you are. So I think we create some of those problems, and I just compare it with my own experience, and I imagine probably your experience, somewhat growing up in sales as well, is that we certainly had processes, well-defined processes. Both you and I both worked for very large corporations that long histories of sales, but same token, I was given freedom once I'd been trained to adapt that process to my unique strengths in order to achieve the outcomes that need to be achieved. My goals, hit my quota and achieve President's Club and all that.
Well, I think a couple of things. We got a lot more training than most reps get.
We did,
and
for sure.
We stayed in the role. We stayed in a particular role much longer than I think reps stay in a role today. So you could stay in let's say I'm an SMB sales rep. You may stay in that role for years before you get to move to the next one, where I think now there's the expectation. First, you don't get the weeks and weeks of training and the ongoing. And so I think that's part of it. And then people move more often. So they're not gaining the expertise in a particular role in a segment, in a vertical. I think those are factors that really affect it. I think about just reps that I've worked with. I don't know that I would say that they are fully equipped, that they're going to have a better result if I just say, hey, just use your creativity. Most of the ones I deal with are definitely looking for feedback, and many of them are looking for a process before they walk in the door. Help me understand what this ought to look like for me to be successful. So I don't know that I totally would agree, at least in my experience, that I think they need to have some creativity, but I think most of the reps I've dealt with are looking for some structure. They're looking for guidance on process. They want to be able to apply some creativity, but they're also looking for that structure.
Well, what do you think, and this is a question, not meant to be a loaded question, but so in your mind, what do you think is the one thing that top performers have in common?
What do I think top performers have in common? I think they are...
One thing.
Oh, just one thing?
Yeah, one thing. I think there's one thing they all have in common, and I'm interested to see if you see it the same thing.
You just think it's one thing? I don't think it's... I don't.
There could be multiple things, but I've got one specific thing in mind. Let me clarify that.
One of the things I think is they are very sort of intrinsically self-motivated.
Okay.
What would you say? You've got one in your mind.
Yeah.
So we should just hear it.
They all broke the rules. I mean, you think back through your entire career, people that were top performers in sales that you worked with or you had exposure to and so on. And I mean, I don't mean they were renegades, right? But they did things their own way. They took what was there as a process and shaped it to fit what works best for them. And that's one of the reasons it's hard when we try to train our reps by saying, look what John did or look what Janet did or is doing, because the reason they're doing that specific thing is it's something that works that applies for them from an intrinsic strength perspective, that other people aren't necessarily going to have those same strengths and those same perspectives or whatever. So, I think my fear is that in this environment is that, and again, this is what I'm seeing, this is how I interpret what I see with the companies I deal with, is that we're not creating an environment to create more top performers, because these are people, as you said, they've got certain self-belief and confidence that, they're not really worried about the consequences of this thing not working, because they know that A, high confidence is going to work, or B, if it doesn't work, you want to get rid of me, fine, I'll go find a job somewhere else. But they took a chance and succeeded. So then they were given more rope. And we have to find a way to give more people more rope. Doesn't mean everybody deserves it or do well by it. But we always think about, how do we sort of defy this 80-20 distribution rule of, having 80% of our sales done by 20% of our reps. And it's always going to be that way if we sort of treat everybody different. Right? We treat top performers different. Yeah, they bent the rules of the process and so on, but they're doing okay, so we're going to let them keep on doing it. Everybody else we're going to keep a lid on. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. The other people are never going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, when I say that everybody, like, do you see yourself, like, were you like a big rule breaker?
Well, again, it's not like everyone looked at me and said, wow, that Andy, what a renegade. But yeah, I did. I mean, I always had the MO, if you will, throughout my career, is that I'm ultimately responsible for my success. And yeah, I'm going to take advice and direction and look at it through the lens of, is this going to help me or not? Because, I can decide, I'm going to take your advice, Mr. Manager. And if I fail with it, I was still the one that was going to get fired. Not you.
Yeah, that's true.
Not you. So every time I'd get advice or guidance or something, I'd look at it through that lens and say, okay, is this going to help me achieve what needs to be achieved, the goals that need to be achieved? And if not, I might not hear it. And I feel like we don't give people that latitude to do that these days.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, and I'm trying to think about the people that have been top performers. Would I say they're all rule breakers? I don't know if that's probably not what I would have used, that term or that, but I'm going to think about it. Like that's.
It sounds more dramatic, perhaps, than it really is. But they're not conforming the same way everybody else is conforming.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And so my contention is we need to find a way to encourage people to do that. And I think we sort of have the deck stacked against a lot of people in sales from starting with the way we set quota, for Christ's sake. One of the things that that is proven is that if you experience success, then your odds of continuing to experience success go up.
Yeah.
And so what we do is this whole deal of like we set quotas artificially high, based on let's make it a stretch quota, blah, blah, blah. And all this filters down. Well, the fact is that you think about, okay, well, we got 40% of our team that made quota. Well, what if we set quotas to a little bit lower and get 60% of our people and get that extra 20% acclimated and accustomed to having success? We could then raise the quotas next year, and I guarantee those people would make quota. We've made them part of the fold that's going to do it. And I don't see enough managers really thinking about that in terms of how they engage that sort of great middle group of sellers who aren't the abject failures and aren't the top performers, is how to, as a group, elevate their success.
Right. Yeah, it's we're talking about that. I mean, we talk about it. I think about it a lot. I was talking about it today with some of the managers. Just this very point. I'd rather see fewer people on the team. I'd rather have fewer people on the team and everybody doing well, or more of them doing well, than a larger number and it be, not so well. So I definitely get that.
Well, that's the pressure that a lot of startups are under from investors, right? Hey, you got to scale.
Right.
So let's bring these people on. But yeah, we're only closing 1 of every 5 qualified prospects. Well, you start seeing this all, of course, because what we're doing is we're bringing more people into it. They're going to generate prospects that really aren't quite as good as they should be. And, we're wasting all this time and effort on people that we're never going to close for us.
Right.
So to your point,
right.
Why not have fewer selling more high quality deals? And at the end of the day, you'll probably be in the same spot.
Yeah, I'm in violent agreement.
But that's a trap we're stuck in. And I say we as sort of a sales industry, and certainly in the businesses following this predictable revenue model, sort of the trap we're in. And so we had this conversation at the Yesware event is where I sort of, to be provocative, is throughout the statement that, and you and I have disagreed about this before, is that, time's coming, we're going to have to get rid of quota as a measure of performance because it's not serving anybody's interests.
Yeah.
It's artificially set without regard to any sort of reality. I mean, there's a report published recently by Gong that was showing that, I forget the exact figure, the quota is going to raise on average 7.5%, and sales growth is like 5% or something. It was like, it was never going to square, right? We're always going to have quota set beyond the ability of people to make it. But we have this game that managers play, right? We set quota X% higher on the assumption that we're only going to get 20% of our reps to do it. And if they all do it and they're all 105%, then we're going to make the number. And it's a crazy way to do it. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, what you want is you want a higher fraction of your sales team experiencing that success and hitting the number, because then you're grooming them in success, and they are going to be damned if they fall back into failure. And they'll do whatever it takes to continue to be successful.
Right. And I'd love to see quotas gone. I think I can't see that happening anytime soon, but there's really something to that.
Well, they're self-fulfilling prophecies, right? They're targets. So you give people a target, they're going to try to hit that target. What if you took the target away? But the compensation was still tied to a certain, sales amount. Yeah, I think people would sell the same if the quota wasn't there, maybe even more.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's still such part of the culture. You just can't. We have to have some way of measuring, but unfortunately, the way we measure is obviously completely broken because the CSO Insights reports, if we take those as having some semblance of reality to what's happening in the field, 2,200 companies they surveyed. Granted, it's self-reported. That's the caveat to it, but still self-reporting that 50% of our reps are making quota.
It's and you wonder why. And
it's going down every year.
Yeah,
that's not good.
No, it's not good.
And by the same token, we're only closing 1 of every 5 deals in the pipeline. It's like, what? There's a problem here. We have to fix this problem because we can't grow. I mean, most companies aren't going to be able to grow with that model. And especially, in the software world, as what we're seeing is, the beauties of the technology that exists is the ability to address inexpensively, create solutions for more niche markets, more finely niched markets. So you're not going to be able to go into those markets and do, 30 to 50 calls a day. Because niche markets may only be 1,000 prospects. So it's. I think we're hitting this point where it's sort of this fundamental rethinking of how we approach it is going to have to take place, and I know others are thinking about it as well. But it's what we talked about today is just sort of one aspect and one element of it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that's going to solve the problem, but it's definitely we need to do something differently.
Yeah.
I want a team also that's motivated and feels good about what they're doing. And when you're at 50% or less, you don't feel motivated. You don't feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah,
when you're not closing that many deals, you don't feel good about what you're doing.
Well, and then we see all sorts of sort of behaviors on the part of management that sort of perpetuate that. I mean, uneven distribution of leads. I mean, I see this all the time. Oh, this is a good lead. Let's give it to Debbie because Debbie's the number one sales rep. Well, but John's sitting over there, and John should get an equal chance at leads. I mean, it's
that's
hard.
That's why we round robin,
right?
Yeah, you make it. You want it to be even,
right? And give everybody an opportunity to succeed. Because again, once people get a chance to taste success, they'll want to keep succeeding. And we have sort of this basic human motivation drive element that so many of our sales leaders just seem to be blind to. And granted, everybody's got lots of excuses.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
Excuses and a lot of pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, pressure is the excuse, right? But that's why it's hard to break the cycle, sort of given the dynamics of what's happening and the way the businesses are funded and so on. But it's going to reach that point, and somebody's going to be the one that makes the break. Why not Bridget Gleason?
I'm ready to make the break. I'm ready to make the break as I have salespeople waiting outside my door to ask me a question before the evening ends. That's my break.
See, that's the point. Tell them to go figure it out.
Okay, well, I have to get off before I go tell them to figure it out.
All right. Bridget, a pleasure, as
Andy,
always.
As always, good topic today. Good for a Frontline Friday.
Yeah. And friends, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Again, if you have any questions, comments, inputs, send them to me, andy@andypaul.com, or you can go to andypaul.com. There's a red button on the front page, homepage. Click on that, leave us an audio message, and we'll address it on the air. So again, thank you for spending time with us. Bridget, thank you.
Andy, thank you. Have a good one. I'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.